The Bulls tell you every day that FSD is done. It's so close to done. It is maybe even done in-house already. And I have a number of times pushed back on that assertion. And you know who else has pushed back on it? Mike from cyberowners.com. We're going to have a quick chat about that. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So, Mike, you and I have had a couple opportunities to speak over the years, but lately more. And you've shared with me that you are not the most bullish on FSD. What obstacles do you see?
Well, let me explain what I mean by I'm more bearish on FSD. I'm bullish in the long run on FSD. I as much as I criticize, I do think that Tesla is way in the lead. I do think they are going to solve it. Where I push back on that is one, hardware 3. I've been saying for years, I don't think hardware 3 will be unsupervised robotaxi full self-driving. I've gotten a lot of pushback on that, but now we're hearing, from Elon that hardware 3 may need to be upgraded, and if so, that it will be no cost, and that's fine. That's totally acceptable to me. By the time it's solved, a lot of people have upgraded. They've transferred their FSD anyway. It's not going to cost them that much. That's really been my big thing is I just have never thought hardware 3 was going to be the one to do it. Well, I say never. If you go back to 2018, I really thought FSD was going to be robotaxi by 2020 when he said 2019.
I did too. Yeah. I thought, I mean, if you'd have asked me what are the odds it'll be done by 2024, by November of 2024, I would have said 100%, somewhere in the high 90s for sure. Now, I'm going to provide some context real quick because I know it'll show up in the comments if I don't. When you're building something that's never been built before, it makes sense to overbuild, over-engineer. That's a common thing. They'll do it with rockets. They'll do it with everything. Over-engineer it until it works, and then you can start scaling it back. And right now we're at the point where we're still overbuilding. Maybe AI 5, AI 6 are not necessary, but they may be necessary to solve it, and then we can start stepping back. And when he says we'll upgrade it for free, I hope that means actually upgrade it for free. Because if someone's paying $100 a month for an FSD trial or a subscription, I don't see them being willing to upgrade your hardware for you at no cost. But if you already paid $6,000, $8,000, $15,000 for your FSD, they are, in my opinion, obligated to make right by that. And I don't mean letting me transfer it forward. I mean actually make right by that. And we don't know where that line is because we haven't found it yet. Right now, it's not done. What kind of, and I would also say that I do share your position that Tesla is in the lead and that it is fantastic software and that I believe it will happen sooner than later, but we're not there yet. So what kind of experiences have you had with FSD that leads you to believe that hardware 3 is inadequate?
Well, a lot of it is things like that they just haven't solved yet. Issues with speed, not just correct speed limits, but how it deals with speed. I live in a small town. All the towns around me are fairly small. They enforce the speed limit here. So if you fly into town, you're going 55, 60 outside of city limit, and you come into town and you cross that city limit sign and you're going 60 miles per hour and it's a 35 zone, they're going to pull you over. The car just doesn't slow down. And that's with auto speed or manual speed. It doesn't slow down.
Yeah. I had that experience in Iowa when I was going, little towns every 30 miles, and you're doing, the speed limit's 60 outside of town, but 30, 35 in town. And sometimes I would always have to play with the scroll wheel because it would not hit the brakes until too late. And then of course I would have to crank it back. Sometimes I would have to literally disengage because I'm not going to jail for you.
Right. Yeah. And until Tesla takes liability, then, if they get tickets and they pay the tickets, then that's fine. But as long as I'm supervising, and I get the points on my license, no.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely
And
agree.
there are some other things, and these will be solved. There are a lot of lane selection issues in my area, where it gets in the wrong lane and I have to take over to make my turn. Um, Things like that. Those will be solved. The speed thing can be solved. The things that I don't feel will be solvable are a lot to do with the camera and the compute in the car. The cameras are pretty low resolution compared to
On
everything.
hardware
Yeah,
3.
hardware 3. Compared to a lot of cameras that are out there. Hardware 4 is much better. I can't really speak to hardware 4. I don't have a hardware 4 car. But, in hardware 3, I just think those the things like seeing a small pothole, a small animal, things like that. I don't know if the resolution is going to be enough at high speed to avoid things like that. There are other things with, the cameras being occluded, in bright sun, low sun in the morning and evening. I and this is across 3 cars that I've had. I've had issues going back to pre FSD beta where autopilot would disengage because of the sun. Um, and some people say they've never experienced that, but I have, and I have on 3 cars, and I have for the past
Mm.
4.5 years. So, I don't see that that's solvable.
Yeah. What I love is when you have an experience like that and people on X tell you you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Nope. No, I don't know how else to point the car. What we get in the Northwest is a little bit of rain. I live in a town called Longview, Washington, where I checked yesterday. We get 183 days of rain per year. And it's not real rain. It's like the drizzly kind.
Hmm.
So when you're on the highway, it just sprays foam at you. And the cameras are always occluded. And it's not because they're dirty. You can get out, clean them, get back on the road. They're dirty. It's a concern. And I've had FSD miss my exit because I can't change lanes right now. I can't do it. And my question is, what are you doing? Are you migrating to where the weather's better so you can actually turn around and come back? And maybe that's what it is doing. I've seen a number of Tesla Hyperbulls saying, I think it's been solved internally and they're just testing it and they'll release it any day. And to that I say, then why are they building Cortex? That's a lot of compute. That's billions of dollars of compute for something that you believe is already solved. I think that's a little hard to justify.
Yeah. No, it does give me a lot of confidence, though, for Elon to finally say that hardware 3 may not be good enough and that they'll upgrade. It's just, a thing I've said for a long time, and I'm not an engineer. I don't know everything that they're working on. But just, common sense says to me that the cameras need to be able to see. So I'll go to one more thing about FSD in the hardware.
Hang on, you blew my mind. The cameras need to see. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The last thing, and I've talked about this one a lot, is the placement of the cameras. Hardware 4 doesn't fix this. If they use the front
No.
camera on the Cybertruck, that may fix it. But we have a lot of places here where you've got a building or bushes or a fence right up at the edge of the road. We have very minimal or no sidewalks. There's no shoulder on the road. I'm talking about roads that have existed for 100 years. So they weren't built for the type of traffic we have now. So you pull up to an intersection, there's a building right beside you. The only way to see is to lean as far forward as you can and peek around the building. The car can't lean forward and peek. What it has to do is creep forward, and then the nose is in the road. And, cross traffic.
Right.
If a car happens to be coming right then, that would not be a good situation.
I agree entirely. I think it's if you had a bumper cam with 180 vision, it'd be taken care of. And for that matter, if you had a 180 cam on the back with to look for cross traffic when you're backing out, which is even more difficult, that would be. I have to agree that the camera placement is unfortunate. If even if the B pillars were looking more forward, but it's
If
just,
if the
yeah,
uh,
it's
if the repeater cameras had a wider field of view, they would be able to see, and that would be better than a human. It's further forward than I can lean. So if it could see left and
yeah.
right, then that would solve that issue as well.
I think the problem there becomes that then they're subject to the road spray even
Yeah.
worse. So I am also not an engineer. I'm not telling them how to do their job, but it doesn't take an engineer to recognize some things could be better. And here are some obstacles that we're encountering in the real world. Guys, in the comments, how close do you think we are to FSD? Unsupervised. I don't mean in terms of regulatory or insurance issues. I mean in terms of the tech itself. At what point would you feel comfortable sending your car across town to pick up your children and bring them home without you? That's to me the real test. Guys, if you get a chance, I made a video with cyber owners Mike here just a day or two ago, where we discussed some of the ridiculous wraps that they have and some cool new frunk seats. Go frunk yourself is what you need to do there,
Sit the frunk
and check
down.
that video out. Well, you can shut your frunking mouth and we'll all have fun. It's just a fun word to play with, is all it is, Mike. I just love it. Guys, yeah, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it into the comments below and stay tuned and juicy. I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the next one.